And welcome to the August 11th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient, allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the assistance and continued support of our entire staff, Jen, Kevin, Alyssa, Mark, and Amy. We are missing one. Maury is not in the house at the moment. So Pat, you are the appointed alternate. It was a tough choice for me to make, but I got through it. Just to remind you, for commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we don't chatter over each other. And votes are done by roll call. So when I call your name, state your name and your vote, even if you've made the motion of the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. As per Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 regarding COVID-19, now allows for full public participation. So if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct, and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. First up, we don't have any minutes to vote, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so request for continuance under a notice of intent. First up, Judith and Thomas Stetson, 0 Quisset Avenue, parcel 50-003A-000, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to conduct repairs and ordinary maintenance to an existing licensed stone and concrete pier. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until September 15th. Just so the board is aware, this is because Mr. Martin was contacted by the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, and because his proposed project is not an exempt activity, they are making him file a full-blown MISA application, so it's going to take a while.
Okay, heard. I'll move the continuance of 9:15.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 9:15. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin? Kevin O'Brien?
He's getting there.
Yes. O'Brien, aye.
Thank you. Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Is unanimous. This hearing is continued until 9:15. Next, request for continuance under notice of intent. Joshua Bernstein, trustee, 282 Quisset Avenue, nominee trust, 282 Quisset Avenue, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to repair 2 existing licensed seawalls. Jen?
Same scenario, Mr. Chairman. The applicant's requesting a continuance until September 15th so they can complete the MISA filing.
These are contiguous properties, no?
Correct, yes.
Is there any reason we wouldn't be able to open them at the same time?
We would be able to open them at the same time in the next hearing.
Okay, I know I'm jumping ahead, but
Gladfelter, second.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Thank you, Mr. Gladfelter, Dr. Gladfelter. Motion, we have a motion and a second to continue us till 9:15. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Steve? I'm sorry, I skipped Peter. Peter, I'm sorry.
Walsh, aye.
Thank you. Steve?
Patton, aye.
Thank you. Is unanimous. We have continued this till 9:15. Next request for continuance under notice of intent, Greg Clancy, Clancy Construction, 71 Alder Lane, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to expand an existing garage, remove and replace 5 native trees, and for all associated excavation. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until September 1st. They actually were going to withdraw the project for unrelated wetland reasons, but unfortunately there is a patio that has to be dealt with and some other construction that was done to the house without, and this was the patio was recently done, but the construction of the house was done a while ago. So Tom's just going to try to clean that up. So they're requesting a continuance until September 1st.
Thank you.
Bird, so moved.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this till 9:1. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Thank you. It is unanimous. We've continued this till 9:1. Next up, request for determination of applicability. First up, James and Maria Crowley, 214 Minot Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade to a new Title V sewage disposal system with an increase in design flow and to construct and maintain a second floor addition. Mr. Newton?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staff recommends a -2 under the state and under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Joshua Christian, 42 John Parker Road, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to remove an existing deck and to construct a new larger deck. Mr. Newton?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, James Brown, 114 Nationalena Street, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install town water service from Nationalena Street to a boat shed. Mr. Newton?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Jill Neubauer Architects, 10 Langley Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a single-family dwelling and install a Title V septic system on an undeveloped wooded lot. Mr. Newton?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a +3 under the state and under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move. Could you give me the reason?
Sure. Go ahead, Jen.
Courtney, this is like a coastal bank that's inland. Tom Bunker, I've promoted up to a panelist. I didn't know if you wanted to speak on this or not. We did speak to Tom Bunker today. because the proposed house is being, the bank it's quite inland, but it technically meets the definition of a coastal bank. And the house position is actually on the bank itself. So staff cannot recommend a -2 because it is altering filling. It is considered either an alteration of fill, dredge, or I can't remember the other one, under the Wetlands Protection Act and the bylaw. I did speak to Tom again. I just promoted him up as a panelist. And if the board does want to issue a -2, what I would suggest is to continue to the next hearing so you can look at the site plan yourselves and visit the site. Mr. Chairman, Tom's in the audience. I mean, as a panelist.
Tom, would you like to add anything?
No, I talked with Jen and she covered it now. I mean, I realized the possibility, but I was hoping it wouldn't be a positive. It is, as Jen said, it's fairly distant from everything, but it is a little, people used to talk about a finger-like projection of a wetland or something, but this is a finger-like projection of a flood zone, and the sides of it, the edge of it does technically meet, there is some 10-to-1 or steeper slope there. It's not 4-to-1, but it's 10-to-1, so it does technically meet the definition of a coastal bank. And I don't think the house is on it, but it is stake. Part of the driveway is, there's some fill, and part of the driveway is over the coastal bank. And so, as Jen said, if feel safe, if you were to go for a negative determination, then you should look at the site and look at the plans before voting. So if you feel so compelled, I'd request a continuance to give you time to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion on the table to accept staff's recommendation of a +3. Anybody?
Mr. Chairman, if we vote down the recommendation, can we then make a motion for a continuance, or what are our options?
So Peter, usually what I would caution the board to do is if the board does not want to, for whatever reason, accept or follow the staff's recommendation, what I would suggest you do is vote a continuance. Kevin will email all the plans, email the RDA application and the plans to the board so you can see the plans yourselves. And then the site's staked out if you want to go visit it. I don't want you to make a decision in a vacuum without seeing the plan or the site. So we would just, if you're on the fence, I would suggest continuing it to the next hearing, which is the 25th, and that will give you time to review the plan, and then you can make a determination and have all the facts available to you.
Well, procedurally, we have a motion on the table. How do we handle that?
It gets withdrawn.
Yeah.
Courtney withdraws his motion.
Not everybody talking at once, please.
I can withdraw the motion if the consensus is that we want to continue this.
Okay, if that's fine, if you're going to withdraw that, and then we would need a motion and a second to continue it till August 25th.
So moved, Gladfelder. Harris, second.
Okay, so for the record, Courtney, you withdrew your motion to accept the +3.
Correct.
Okay, and Betsy made the motion to continue this till August 25th, and Pat seconded that motion. Just so we're all clear. So our motion and second on the table is to continue this to 8/25. Everybody clear on that piece?
Yes.
All right. Betsy,
Gladfelder, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
All right, it is unanimous. We have continued this RDA request until 8/25. Thank you. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, I'm gonna move you, well, actually, if you just want to hang tight, you're
Coming up
the
soon.
next one, so I won't move you back. And Kevin Newton, can you please make sure the board gets a copy of the RDA and the plan?
Sure. I mean, we have 2 weeks as well. If the commission wants paper copies, maybe Tom could arrange for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up on our list of RDAs, Rhonda and John Sipek, 16 Worcester Avenue, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a 169 square foot addition. Mr. Newton?
Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up is a continued request for determination of applicability. First up, Claudia Mackin, 12 Nichols Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove invasive vines, install pavers, replace the existing drain from the rinse station, and install a post and light at the dock entrance. Mr. Newton?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, staff recommends a -2 under the state and a -3 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up are requests for hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. All right. The first two have been continued. All right. First up, Hamlin Homes, 89 Beech Street, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to raise, R-A-Z-E, the existing single-family dwelling and to construct a new single-family dwelling, upgrade to a new Title V septic system, install native trees, install fill, and to modify the existing driveway with all associated grading and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Tom Bunker is here to present his project.
Excellent. Mr. Bunker, you're up.
Thank you. So, yes, I am here to present it. I'm Tom Bunker with BSS Design. We prepared the plans and exhibits for you representing the builder Hamlin Homes and the owner Perez, who's owned the property for a little while. So if I may, I'll share the screen.
Yes, sir.
Get right into it. I have to ask, is the audio okay? Last time I was on, you said it was all muddy.
No, you're good tonight, Tom,
Okay, thank you.
at least on my end.
Agreed.
So do you have my GIS photo up here?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Okay, this is just to show it's this lot that's right in the middle. It's not a very clear picture, but you see the existing house, driveway on the northeast corner, lawn on the water side, and it looks like these trees are lying down, but they're just casting a long shadow. There's an oak tree in the backyard by the pond and an oak tree in the front yard, there's this other shadow of an oak tree that's on the neighbor's property. There's vegetation on the north side. There's actually undeveloped Harbor Avenue on the north side of the property. You can see some marshland out here, and a significant break in the marsh at this location, and then more marsh to the south of it. I have this house that was built. There's more history that I just received yesterday, more than I cared to go through. But we have the existing house. Now the orientation has changed. I'll just go through briefly. So as I said, we are on Beech Street here on the front. Great Pond is the water body it borders on. Salt Marsh on the north and the south of the frontage, and a break in the marsh there called Coastal Beech, right down the middle of the lot. There is a flood zone line running through AE elevation 14 over Great Pond, drops 1 foot to AE elevation 13 when it hits this little rise. So there's a coastal bank along here, just landward of the coast of the salt marsh. And then so sparsely vegetated, there's a mulch and native shrubs, mainly on the south side, mainly shrubs on the south side, mainly mulch and some grasses along the middle of the lot. Large lawn, that oak tree is right up in this, a 48-inch oak, and it spreads over the area here. Lawn in this location, a couple oak trees and some other vegetation, some sassafras trees, viburnum, honeysuckle bush, and bittersweet, the usual culprits in this location here along the property line. Shed, driveway, a stone driveway coming down here. The large 34-inch oak tree in the front yard right here, and the existing septic system in this location under the front lawn. We've established a limit of work to go along the property line and across the front, so that tree is within the limit of work, and that's to be removed. The septic system will all have to be removed, and of course the house will be removed, the shed will be removed, which is mainly on the other property, but on this Harbor Avenue, but that corner of it is on the property, and that shed will be removed also. I can go to a colorful plan here. This is the proposed conditions. So here I've just colored in the flood zone, a bunch of zone A's. Land subject to tidal action, zone A, land under salt pond, zone A, that's 75 feet back, and a 50-foot coastal bank, zone A, through here. Those are all on the seaward side of the house, pretty much. Then we get under the land, some B zones. The furthest landward A zone is a salt marsh 100-foot zone A, which basically encompasses the entire house. And then the furthest landward, the B zone, is the coastal bank zone B in this location. So the entire house, what you see here shaded is the proposed house. You can see in the line, the color them in red. This red line is the outline of the existing house. So you see it has freed up some area on the seaward side in this location and this location, mainly on the north side, freed up some space. So wider space in this location here, and the driveway is made a little bit shorter. But then in this location where we're just out of the zone B, you have more driveway because this house incorporates a garage, but the other house didn't. But to fit in, it's a 4-bedroom house, fit in the septic system, we have to take up the entire front yard. Retaining wall right up to the street line, retaining wall a couple of feet back. This is a modular block retaining wall, so we don't require the deep, poured concrete footings. It is, top of the wall is elevation 9, and the base of the wall in this around here is elevation 5.5 along the street. So it's 3.5 feet high. It gets a little bit higher here, down to 4 feet high. Actually, in this location, the driveway slopes up to the garage at 8.5 feet elevation. So in this location, this wall is only 6 inches high, with some steps going up to a patio at elevation 10.5, and then more steps up to a porch. So the floor elevation is at 15. It's in flood zone 13, so the requirement, it has to be at least elevation 14. Put it up a foot higher so they can get the ventilation ductwork under the joists and out of the flood zone. So we had that one oak tree that was in the middle here. As it says, and it's, it said, "Oak tree, you're in my way." So it's got to be cut out to make room for the septic system. We've replaced it with a few smaller trees, small trees up here, because the overhead wires are in this location. You can't have taller, large trees because it's close to the septic system, and because it'll be, under the wire. So I have some smaller trees, such as dogwoods or amelanchier, or in here, a couple cedar trees on the south side where I'll get more sun. Where the shed used to be, putting in a white oak or red maple in this location. Let me go to one thing first. To explain, because on the plan, it looks like this stairway is getting closer to the resource area. So Jen said I should have an exhibit or something here. So I didn't have all these dimensions on the plan. I can send a copy of this in. I did have these dimensions. The existing house is 44 feet to the coastal bank in this location. And the proposed house is 46 feet to the coastal bank here. And the bottom of the steps, and actually I measured it to the a stone slab at the bottom, is 45 feet to the coastal bank. So the corner of the house is 2 feet further from the coastal bank relative to the existing, and the step at the bottom where there's concrete or stone is 1 foot. There's a closer, it's farther, 1 foot farther from the coastal bank than the existing house. And the same with the salt marsh. It's 47 feet in this location. It's the closest to the salt marsh. And so in this corner, the proposed house is 49 feet. So it's 2 feet farther from the salt marsh. And the bottom of the steps here is also 49 feet. So it's also 2 feet farther from the salt marsh than the existing house is. And I've drawn on this line, and this will get to this, probably in your packet, there are a long history of troubles in this site. There was an order which required a 15-foot buffer, planted 15-foot buffer from the salt marsh. So on this plan, I've offset our location of the salt marsh 15 feet, and actually goes a little landward of where the lawn is in this area, this extra area of the lawn, plus the area of where it's a lot of mulch and sparse shrubs. However you word the condition, should you approve this, will have to be planted as required in an old order of conditions, and as mentioned in the history of the enforcement order for this. So I think I've explained most of that, and so there is a reduction in coverage overall here. So there's no mitigation planting per se for this site. Planting as what they call it, mitigate. Actually, the tree we're taking out is not even in the zone A or B, but it is in the flood zone. It's in your jurisdiction, but replacing that with 3, 4, 5, 6 trees of various types. and whatever might be required up on this old required 15-foot buffer to the salt marsh. I'll stop my share and take any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Jen, do you want to start?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, our comments are pretty limited. We would just suggest to comply with the old enforcement order and then remain in compliance with the original order of conditions that the bare areas along that buffer zone be augmented and enhanced with additional shrubs, the mulch being removed and some wildflower, seed mix placed where the mulch is, but then beef it up with a few more shrubs. And the only other comment we have is, Tom, your proposed tree over by the driveway.
Yep.
And I forgot to mention this to you. It's pretty much under a really heavy canopy, so we probably want to relocate that.
Okay.
What do you
Yeah, I
think?
put it where the shrub was, but I didn't think to look up. But yeah,
Look out.
canopy over the shrub, over the shed.
But I do out in the field. I'm a tree and I'm growing up. Yeah, so I think we just need to relocate that tree. So I don't know if the board's going to want a revised plan to show those the shrubs in that buffer zone area and that relocated tree. Staff would be fine. If Tom just wanted to submit that after the hearing, just make sure those shrubs are 3 feet on center, Tom.
Yeah.
I think that's it, Mr. Chairman, unless Kevin Newton has anything to add.
May I ask you one question?
Sure.
In all the enforcement law, you mentioned do you have to get a licensed professional wetlands, on the restoration people to do this? It'd be a better job, but what would be the requirements for someone that's going to be either determining the planting or doing the work?
What was that again, Tom? I was looking at my plan on something.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in that history of all the enforcement order, I think in one place there was a requirement that a professional licensed environmental person do the replanting and everything.
I want to say that I think this was one of Teresa Sprague's very first projects that we worked with her on. That said, it's not a very large area, Tom. So,
I think you
we're just
outlined
going
the
to put
species.
normal planting requirements. I'm not going to,
Yeah, I think you outlined bayberry, some viburnum, and something else. I think it was in that. So
I remember the enforcement was for a bunch of little stones that were being placed along the bank. Those had been removed, and then just to reestablish that buffer so we can remain in compliance with that original order.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can we accept that staff and Tom, you guys would work together on that?
Yeah, we can. The staff can work with Tom on that.
All right. Commissioner comments. Pat?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Peter?
No questions.
Steve?
No, Mr. Bunker presented a plan that stayed farther back from the limits of the prior house very attentively, and it looks good to me.
Excellent. Betsy?
You might have covered this already, Tom, but the shed is on that paper road.
Yeah.
Who owns the paper road?
Technically, I'm not sure. Technically or typically, the abutter owns the center line. I'm not sure if that's the case in this one.
Well, this is just a technicality, but I'm just wondering, was it advertised? Was that?
I'm not sure who came up there, who came up as the owner of that, if anyone. I mean, I would say it's, if you went out 100 feet, if the abutters on both sides owned to the center line, then that next lot over should have been notified. Are you saying advertised as being part of the
I don't
project?
know. I'm just asking. This is from Jen. This is a question to Jen.
No, we only advertised for the 89 Beech Street lot.
But even though work's gonna be done next door, that's,
Well, all they're doing is taking out the shed.
yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. I think it's great.
You give me 1 second. I don't know how fast GIS is gonna come up right now, but let me see if I can find out if that is if I can spell the word beach correctly, that would be helpful as well. Private.
Yeah.
So they're gonna own to the center line.
They do own.
Yeah, it's private, so I'm assuming.
Okay, I mean, the very first hearing that I had when I was very first years ago on the board, I remember asking a question saying, is it okay that that shed is straddling the property line? And the project, actually, the answer was no. So, okay,
But they're removing it.
no, this shed is fine, but that's why I'm a little sensitive when sheds aren't on the property
Oh, correct, yeah.
where you think
Correct.
they're supposed to be.
All right, Courtney?
I would echo Betsy's comment. That's a normal concern of mine as well, but I have no questions on this project.
All right, Kevin?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function? Anybody that would like to speak?
We have no chats, Mr. Chairman. It doesn't look like anybody in the audience has their hand raised either.
All righty,
I'd like to make a motion then.
please do.
May I? To close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. If there's
Could I
no
ask
further,
one? Could I ask a question?
sure.
Just about timing. Do you need a plan before you vote on it? It's
Yeah.
just
I mean, we
all-
can condition it, Tom, or you can provide a plan. I mean, we don't meet again until the 25th, so.
Right, I'm gonna be away for 2 weeks, so I won't have time to do a plan before
Okay,
then.
we'll just condition it then, Tom, that's fine.
Okay,
Are you good with that, Tom?
I'm good with that.
Okay,
I'll do it in September.
so we
Okay.
have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Patton, hi.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you, Tom. Have a safe trip wherever you're going.
Tom has a nice, yeah, have a nice break.
Yeah, going to Michigan.
Have a safe trip.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay
Night,
well.
Tom.
Yeah, good night.
All right. Before we go any further, I just want to acknowledge the attendance of our select board liaison, Sam Patterson. Welcome, Sam. Thank you. All right, next up, continued hearings under notice of intent. That has been continued yet again. This brings us to continued hearings under an enforcement order. First up, Charlotte Mills Siler, 0, Nationalena, Lot 2A, West Falmouth, Mass. Failure to install mitigation and restoration plantings according to Mass DEP number 25-3969. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant's representative is requesting an additional continuance till September 9th. They just got the surveys done and they are working with staff to finalize the submittal to the board.
Okay, can we do the same for the next one then?
Correct.
I mean, can we vote at the same time or do we have to do separate votes?
You mean when we have the hearing, you can open them at the same
No,
time?
no. Tonight, now. The next one's gonna get
Separate
continued,
votes,
right?
they're separate people, separate votes, please.
Okay, that's why I'm asking. Okay, so the applicant's asking for a continuance till September 9th.
So moved. Gladfelter.
September 1st.
I'm sorry,
So
September 1st. Okay, so we have a motion.
Bird second.
All right. All right, anybody confused?
No, but I had
Yeah, I
nine
was.
written down too, Jamie.
Thank you. It's covering me. All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Pat,
Pat, you're on mute.
My apologies. Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
All right, it is unanimous. We have continued this until 9/1. Next up, Matthew and Ruslan Seiler, 10 Nationalena Street, West Falmouth, Mass. Failure to install mitigation and restoration plantings according to Mass DEP number 25-3968.
Again, Mr. Chairman, requesting a continuance until September 1.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this as well to September 1st. So Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until September 1st. Next up, vote order of conditions. First up, Frank and Judy Stepien, 185 Surf Drive, Falmouth.
Jamie, do you want me to read the quorum?
Please.
And the next three, the quorum's going to be the same, and Steve wasn't here, so if you wanted, you could let Steve go home.
Your call, Steve.
I just want to watch.
Okay. So,
I don't have to abstain then?
no,
Okay,
you're not part of the quorum, so just don't say anything.
thank you, thank you.
Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
Okay, at some point I left the meeting, so I don't know if,
I have you crossed off.
okay. Just clarifying, that's all.
Yep.
All right. So this is a Raze and new construction on Surf Drive, which is actually not on Surf Drive, but on Seagull Lane.
Of course.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, hang on, I was just grabbing a pad. The findings. I think there was discussion, you wanted to have a finding that there were no soil borings done for this particular one, although they were done on the next one. Right, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And then a special condition. Raul had clarified all the questions the staff had. And then the special condition, if the scope changed due to the soil conditions, that they would have to come back.
Right. I remember that.
So can I ask a question about that? Those of you who are in construction, before they would be able to get a building permit, wouldn't they have to have a structural engineer
Well, they have to
certified
do a
that?
perk test.
Yeah, so.
They have to do a
as to-
current perk test,
Yeah,
soil evaluation.
yeah,
And their structural engineer would have to sign off on the construction methodology.
okay.
So really for us, what would come up is if they had all that and then they started digging and found that, the conditions were adverse to what they thought. Because, a perk test is done on one piece of the parcel, not the whole thing. So, and it's come up before, it's rare, but it comes up where they actually start digging and find out that it's, something else. And I think that's actually what happened next door, was they found, like, I don't remember what the situation was, but they found inferior conditions and they just had to redesign the footing system.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What if that happened? They would have to redesign the footing, right?
Correct. And that's when they'd have to come back to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we should just make a note of that So that,
Yeah, well, that's what Jen said, yeah.
I did. It's gonna be a special condition that if the soil conditions change the scope, that they need to return to you, Court.
okay,
Is that adequate for you, Courtney?
it is.
Okay.
So is that it?
Kind of simple.
Yeah, the only other thing we discussed, but I think, Jen, you were satisfied with the answer where they're gonna move two of the shrubs that are there and move them basically more towards Surf Drive so that they can
Correct.
get back to do the mitigation plan.
Correct. I'll put that remove shrubs. Yep.
Did we have a maintenance plan for the maintenance of the shrubs?
I don't believe we discussed one. Generally for something like this, some small thing like that. Peter, we just say they have to grow into their full and mature form, which is why we were kind of concerned with the placement. But if you'd like to have some sort of maintenance or monitoring plan for them, we can put that in. That's not a problem.
That's okay. Did we have some DEP concern?
Was a DEP concern. Was that this one? Hang on one second, Peter.
I don't
I
recall
don't.
anything.
I think Pete is correct.
No, Peter is correct. There was a DEP. I don't know why.
The riverfront.
Right. And he was measuring it off the paved driveway. And he
Right, but we
thought
addressed all that.
perhaps
Sorry.
We addressed it is what he said.
Oh, that was right. It was they didn't think that they were complying with section C of the riverfront. Thank you.
Yes.
And the way riverfront is, the way redevelopment is defined in the riverfront regs, it just says, developed areas. It doesn't specifically say structure versus driveway. So Raul's argument or position is that they're not moving any closer to the riverfront than the existing developed area of the lot, which is the driveway and shed versus the actual structure, the primary structure of the house.
Okay, no further questions.
Thanks, Peter.
Good one, Peter.
it is a good one. And I have a follow-up to Peter's comment. It was my understanding, Jen, you were going to check in with DEP. So
Yeah,
that
I haven't had an opportunity to do that yet, and it wouldn't be relevant on here because it would have been information after the close of the public hearing, but I will clarify that with DEP.
I'm just, putting out there, do we want to be in disagreement with DEP on something that they have primary responsibility with the wetlands, the Riverfront Protection Act?
I can get clarification. I actually was on a site with an analyst. It slipped my mind the other day
Sure.
when I was with him. But I'll follow up with DEP.
We ready
All
for a
right.
motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions on 185 Surf Drive,
As discussed.
as discussed. Yes, Courtney, thank you.
Third, second.
As discussed.
Yes.
Oh, never mind. All right. So we have a motion and a second on the table to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Betsy,
Rodfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
you guys are kind of sluggish for such a short meeting. I don't know. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
it is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Matthew Payson Grief, 23 FR Lily Road, Woods Hole, Mass. Quorum, please.
Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Peter, Pat, you're not on this one, Jamie.
All right, okay. All right. So, Jen, I'll let you describe it.
No, there's just several additions and a deck and a porch being added to the existing house. The staff had concerns that the existing house was being renovated and it wasn't noted on the plan. And Tom said that it would probably just be reshingling the existing house. The only other thing we have is to submit a revised plan labeling the quote unquote mitigation, because it's not mitigation, it's actually restoration for a cleared area. I think that's all that what we had. It was just a change in note on the plan.
All right, anybody have anything they want to put in there? All right,
And I'll make an order, I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Heard,
Perfect.
second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Any other comments? All right, Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. You have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Dana Rhoden, Quisset Harbor Preservation Trust, 48 Quisset Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass.
This was presented by Foth Engineering. There are two parts to the amendment. One was to grout the top of the newly done revetment to discourage, how did he put it?
Passive,
Vandalism.
vandalism.
Passive vandalism.
Passive
People are
vandalism.
actually taking the smaller revetment stones out. And I don't know what they're doing with them, but they're removing them. So it's kind of like not good for the structural integrity of that wall. And so they'd like to grout the upper end of that where people can actually reach. And then the second part is to add the geotextile bags to the base of the base of where they did the core fiber rolls.
Actually, it doesn't affect, I'm on the riprap again. It doesn't affect the structural integrity of the wall at all. It just affects the appearance.
Oh, the appearance. I'm sorry. Correct. Thank you. Don't want to scare people. You're right, Betsy.
Yep.
Okay, and I skipped a step. Betsy, can you give me the quorum?
Yes. Where am I? Courtney, Kevin, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
All right.
Everybody but Steve. We miss Steve.
Oh, man.
And he's catching up.
All right. Anybody have anything they want to see in there? All right.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions based on our discussion.
Heard.
And wish them the best of luck.
And wish them the best of luck.
Heard, second.
Knob is a popular place.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Just a reminder, next week, we do not have a meeting.
Oh,
All right, last motion. Who wants it?
One quick thing.
Oh,
Something cool's happening tonight, guys. The meteor showers tonight, tomorrow, and Friday. So go outside and look up. You might see some meteors.
What time?
At least over here in Sipawissa, the fog has rolled in. I can't see anything.
Oh, okay.
Same in East Falmouth.
Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Pat and second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Heard, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury, oh, sorry. Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned.